Thanks everyone for coming today. Um, we're going to be talking about implementing AI solutions for the French government. Um, this session is part of the industry experience track. And so mostly I'll be sharing some return on experience on AI features that we've integrated for government websites, French government websites. So let's take a quick look at a glance at this presentation. I'll be introducing the overall French government strategy. Then we'll look at the global objectives of this particular feature, and that I'll be presenting in the session. Then I'll introduce the project, the overall project, and the platform on which the feature was implemented. We'll have a look at the methodology and approach, which is probably the most interesting part of this presentation. We'll take a very quick look at the technical details, but you'll see there isn't much complexity in there. Then finally, probably, the most impressive part of the presentation is going to be the timeline and results. And roadmap for the future. So the next steps. Just the standard slides. I'm David. I've been long time Drupal contributor. This is just a screenshot of my profile on Drupal.org, and I've worked for the company Eviden. I'm French and based in the south. And I'm a maintainer of many modules and contributed lots of stuff, patches, documentation, translations, etc. And developed a lot of websites on Drupal, whether for public services or private organizations, NGOs, etc. So any types of structures, really. And I'm currently the tech lead of the project Service Public Plus, which is what this presentation is about. Let's get started. As part of its global development strategy, the French government has been working on a plan for investing for 2030 under the direction of President Macron. And I've put here the link to the strategy catering specifically to AI, artificial intelligence. If you're interested, feel free to go take a look and probably just translate, or I'm not sure whether there's an English version, but you can probably get a good version with a translation tool, and you'll see there are quite a lot of points that are very interesting and might be a good way to bring these ideas to your local governments, potentially. And then concretely speaking, as part of this plan, following a decision by the French Prime Minister and Minister Stanislas Guerini, announced at a conference in 2023, it was decided to test an LLM system on this website to improve the user feedback system that is already in place. So I'll give a bit more details and background about this feedback system and the website itself. But firstly, before we go into this, I just wanted to say that one of the strongest motivation point that made me suggest this presentation was that I thought that it might be useful for other governments around Europe, and that I'd like to share this experience so that maybe perhaps other organizations might consider implementing such a system as well. Really a very key aspect, and this crosses back with what Dries was saying at Dries Notes about using user agents and some reluctance from developers and from anybody really looking at an AI system and just thinking that they are just going to take our jobs. And so, really, the idea behind this whole approach is to try to rehumanize and keep the human beings at the center of the application at all times, and try to see the AI assisted systems are as a tool to improve the quality overall of the service that you're providing to the citizens ultimately. So that's really the goal of this application, and the way that we approached it to try to get a wider and better adoption, especially with the agents of the different agencies and bureaus. The way that we worked with them and brought this feature as well, and the features that we're also going to bring in the future. So yeah, all this was decided in various committees and with consultations and lots of consultations of the different bureaus and agencies of the French government. So what is great about AI is that it responds quicker and very efficiently to users' requests, both online and at counters. So there are already a lot of initiatives to start integrating AI as well in counters. So if you were going to a town hall and for, I don't know, like renewing your ID card or things like that, then you'd be able to have some kind of AI systems that would also be able to guide you through the procedure and partially assist your the assist your needs. And so in this particular presentation, we're looking at a feature where the objectives are really to help the public agents, the servants from the public service, and to draft responses to users by using AI. And part of the challenges that we've met was to assess whether AI has a positive impact on the service quality for the users and agents, and also the delay and quality of response. Overall, the scope of this the implementation of this feature started with a volunteer program at the beginning, so with beta testers, and then we started opening the scope. I'll be talking about this a little bit more after when we look at the planning, the overall timeline. I feel that just before I step any further, I just like to show you what the site looks like. So this is the site. As you can see, it has it's using the DSFR. Oops, sorry. Yeah, thanks. Oh, okay. I have to exit this, I think. Yeah, there. It's using the French government design system, so it's the same. It looks the same as any other French government run website. The feature we're talking about is so I might as well just go back here and step a bit further. Yeah. So the part of the missions of this website is to collect citizens' feedback on public services. So any kind of public service, really. So you can take a look here at some of the lists that we have. So you have here, this is the National Agency for Unemployment. This is the police, national police. Then you've got the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Ecological Transition, and so on and so on. So you've got lots of different ministers and agencies, various agencies, which are all part of the French government. And so the idea is to collect feedback from users, so they're able to share their experiences with these different services, like, for example, to get some feedback on the waiting time for requests, or if they need to get any papers renewed and things like that, then how long did it take? Did the tools that we set up online work, or did they encounter any issues in the process? We've got some kind of buttons that are inserted, embedded in other websites that allow just filling the form and sending the data to us, or jumping to this form and filling this form as well, which allows collecting more feedback. As part of the feedback, we're able to get also an overall rating. We could call it like this. The feeling that was conveyed by the experience, and the interesting part of the site, it may look simple, but there are quite a lot of APIs in the back as well for moderation and for identifying certain keywords that allow redirecting the specific feedback, or experience feedback to the specific agency that is mentioned by the user. And it allows connecting agents from French government agencies with citizens. So these feedbacks elements are sent to these agencies, and they are able to answer and respond to the user. Additionally, the site has another mission, which is listing results. So the results of these different agencies. So we are collecting feedback and also showing certain results for various types of agencies. So here, what you can see, let's take Paris here, for example. And this is, I think, not sure. Yeah, this is, for example, the agency for the unemployment and finding jobs. So here you have various indicators right here and you can like filter by region, by city and departments, indicators, and also by agency. So this is another point of the another goal of the site. And one part that is not visible is to build backend analytics that allow all of these agencies to filter and get reports on all of these feedbacks from all the users, so that they have a better idea of how they need to adjust their actions, their tools, and their policies, so that they can improve their overall strategy. So now I have introduced the site. You can see that we have a part where we're connecting two types of users, the citizens, the French citizens, and the French government agents. And the purpose of this feature is to improve this relationship, improve the quality, improve the response time as well. So let's take a look at some of the challenges that we faced. So working with public services is really different from private organizations, I suppose. So one of the most I'd say the strongest constraints probably, and that's going to be probably similar in any country in Europe or around the world, is sovereignty. Which means that you're not able to work with any type of LLM engine and any type of company that will send you back. So the data that if you send it some data, then the French government and the government in general for which you're building this type of solution will want to have a full control over the process and processing of this data and the authority over this data. So it narrows down a lot the types of solutions with which we can work. Autonomy, of course. This is another very strong criteria. Costs. This is probably similar to any private, whether private or public organization. Transparency. This is really key, and we're crossing back to what Dries was saying and Dries notes. And I've been to other presentations and sessions, and they were also mentioning that transparency is really something important. And another very important point is that you have to envision this feature with really a transition to adoption. So you're not going to be able to go live scale with this feature. You have to start with small groups within the public service that you're targeting, and try to scale the feature really step by step. So you need to have some sort of way to turn on or off the feature as well on the site, so that it can be only available to a very small group of users that you can grow over time and take a look at the results and optimize your overall LLM as well. So yeah, we already took a look at this slide. So yeah, this is another just another slide that explains really the interaction, the most important interaction on this site. So I give my feedback. So you have this button on any type of form, really, on whether you're going for renewing your driver's license, or applying for a job, or declaring your taxes online, etc. And you're always going to have this sort of button that says give us your feedback, and this is all going to feed back into this this site, this database. Like I said before, there's some sort of API system that allows, also provided by the government, allows analyzing the keywords within this this feedback, so that it really redirects it to the targeted agency bureau, so they can take the feedback and start thinking and drafting some sort of response. Again, as part of the really as part of the strategy behind implementing such a feature, in particular for public services, the idea is really to guarantee that users' rights, fundamental rights on data and freedom of choice and things like that, are all respected properly. So in terms of features, how does this translate? We have to allow users to choose whether they want to use AI or not. We have to let users also be responsible for the quality of the response. So we're not going to be able to generate it entirely for them. They have the final say. And they should be able to modify it and change it. So it's just a suggestive engine, really. And in terms of the citizens and the end users, so the ones in the front end looking at and receiving these responses, they should also be made aware that this response was partially or fully or not at all drafted with AI systems in the background. Let's take a quick look at the technical details on implementation. So I'll be talking about the LLM system afterwards, but this is more around Drupal, the Drupal side of things, let's say. There are a lot of interactions working with AI engines, but they're like synchronous processes. So you click on a button and it makes a request and gets an immediate response. In this case, we were not able to do that because we had the engine isn't that responsive, and it could take several minutes, like 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, depending on the flow of requests that arrived on the engine. And so we implemented an asynchronous process with queues and crons, pretty classic, really nothing fancy. It's really standard Drupal stuffs. There are two major endpoints with which we would access to the AI system. The first one is to queue our request. So we'd send a request to the AI system, and it gives us back sort of like an ID number, and we can queue this item in another queue, which gets submitted in another cron runs and submits the ID number and gets the response. So the overall process usually takes about 10 minutes, something like this, which is quite acceptable. We have a specific workflow on this site, and one of the triggers is a change of state. So it's the user submits his feedback, then there are several moderation steps, and after the content the feedback has changed to a state where it's ready to be answered, then we have a trigger, and this is where the queues and crons kick in. We use just standard storage because this is all text and it's not really big to store. So stored in fields and database. We store a lot of different fields, information like the API response, error codes, generated response, of course, and other useful things that the user will never see, which are stored in the background. We also had the need to support multiple AI engines. So this is something also you might have to look into. Why? Mostly because different AI engines may fit with different needs and different sort of industry vocabulary. So when you're talking about diplomatic and embassies as public service, it's really different from education, health, public transportation, etc., etc. So we added this feature so that we would be able to submit these requests to different AI engines, and so that these different government agencies would be able to train them with various needs for their particular fields and vocabulary. From the UI, how does this translate? So that's really simple. So it's the end users, the agents who are using and answering these feedbacks. They have a form, and on this form we added this little button that you can see, the green button on the right of this WYSIWYG form, and it's just really a CK editor plugin. And when you click on the button, then it just picks it from the field that had it previously stored from these Q runs and Q cron runs and API calls, and just inserts it in the content and allows the user to modify it manually and change whatever they like. Additionally, so that's also super important if you really want your experiment and your feature to succeed. We strongly recommend that you collect the feedback from the agents. So whether this response was useful or not, this really helped us to further refine by industry, by agency, let's say, the responses that were generated, and identify where the answers wouldn't necessarily be really relevant, or we'd have to look at other AI engines perhaps and try to find a better solution to improve the quality of the responses. So this is really part of the KPIs. I'll show you our KPIs afterwards. But it's something that may look really small, and that's actually really small. It's like a Boolean field, but that is super useful in the end. Yeah, the ability to opt in, opt out at any time. So that's super important. As I mentioned before, when you start implementing the feature, you would like to start. You are probably going to want to start with a smaller set of users. So by default, you're going to be able to opt out the whole bunch of users and just opt in a few small user pool, and to get started with beta testers, we can call them, and choose the provider. So right now, I mean, here we are just showing 2 providers, but there are actually several providers supported on the site, and which can be selected. So as part of our logic here, users are not able to select themselves the provider. It has to be done at the agency level. by a user with higher administrative rights. And of course, transparency. So that's super important. So I'll show you again. I don't know if I can do something like this. Can I switch here? No. I have to exit here. Okay, never mind. I'll just exit and I'll show you what it looks like. If we look at a content item, yeah, right here. So yeah, this is what it looks like. So this is, in French, it translates into a case for retirement, and that's somebody who submitted um, to the National Bureau for Health and Retirement Agency, and they submitted their file with all their what they should be earning and things like that, and they're just complaining about this. And this is the answer that was generated by the AI system. And you can see here that we have this little piece of text right here at the bottom, which means that this answer was generated, or used the AI generated answer with a rate of 88%. So we've got the answer that's generated by the AI system. We've got the answer that is actually submitted by the agent, and we're using just a basic text similarity function that allows us to calculate the amount of the similarity rate, pretty much. So these are two really important indicators: whether the response was useful and the similarity rate. So this is how it translates in the front end. So there are actually quite a lot of AI modules. As you can see, this is really a field that is moving a lot these days, with Dries also talking about the AI agents, site building with AI and all of that. There's a page that is a documentation page that lists quite a lot of solutions and modules that are currently in the process of being developed. At the time we started this feature and implementing this feature, almost none of these modules actually existed. So we built something a bit custom, and also the fact that it's using asynchronous processes, then that might also slightly differ from what these modules provide, like for example the AI module and the AI interpolator. But you can see that this is really a field that is getting a lot of traction these days, and we're hoping that we might as well contribute and perhaps change the way our feature was implemented. Perhaps for the future implementations, features to be implemented, we might try to tag along with all these initiatives, and hopefully help contributing as well and sharing some of our code, although we do have some very business specific pieces of logic. Let's go into the planning. So this is a return on experience on about a year and a half, a little bit less. We started implementing the feature in July 2023, and it was first released by the end of August last year, with a pool of 100 public service agents. They were volunteers, so we had very good relationships with them, and great connection and great way to interact with them, so they could really tell us what was working, what was not, and trying to involve them a little bit more in the feature, which gave us really the ability to test the LLM, further refine the vocabulary that was used for the responses for all the different agencies and sectors. And then step by step, we kept opening the feature. So by November, we reached about 1,000 public services agents. And then, yeah, just we integrated more LLM systems, more engines, and now at the end of 2024, we're around probably something like 5,000 agents from public services that are actually using the AI feature. Um, so overall, we can consider that now the adoption is almost total. It's like probably there are almost no agencies that wouldn't want to be using the feature. Even if they are not clicking on the button and generating the AI response, they might just write if they want. They still opt in, and if they want to, they can use it. If they don't want, they can just draft their own responses. As part of the model, the AI engine model, so that's also super important. I have to get out of here again. One thing that I wanted to show you here is that and I'm sure a lot of um, government agencies in a lot of countries probably have the same types of features, but this is a site that is run by the French government, and they're exporting APIs and sharings, exporting data through APIs, and we're just plugging into these APIs. And so all the content that is submitted on this site, whether from the agents or the citizens, will be available on this site and exported daily and shared through this platform. So you can actually plug any sort of LLM system and go through all these fields, filter by agencies to be able to teach it and to make it learn the proper vocabulary, the different questions that are being asked for each need. You can imagine that you have very different needs. For example, we found the answers from the embassies and diplomatic services were very classy, when the ones from the unemployment bureaus were more factual and about where to find what, which forms, things like that. You have different needs, whether you're talking about health services, education, public transportation, etc., justice, Ministry of Justice, etc., etc. So this is how, yeah, we manage feeding all these engines with real content over time, and uh, we didn't work really specifically on the development of these LLM engines, but we helped identifying which were the right ways and the data sets that they could be using. Um, so a lot of agencies. So this is one site that I showed you, but there are other sites as well, like DILA is another French agency that does that. When the data is exported, it's anonymized verbatims from the site, and these are the different models, LLM engines that we've been using. We've been training. So the first one we started with was the Allo Brain, which is a small startup in France, which managed getting the right agreements and the conditions to be able to work with the government. And then after that, we implemented and we used other LLM engines. Um, where most of them were actually run by government agencies. So, for example, the last one that we integrated this year in 2024 is called Albert, is based on Mistral core engine, which is a French-backed AI engine, and is run Albert is the LLM system that is run by the French government by one of their agencies, and essentially, from our standpoint, we didn't really need to do much there. We had to pretty much plug our site with it and try to feed as much data as we could to it. Probably the most important aspects on which we focused was more like the different little things we could integrate to the site to collect KPIs and provide more flexibility to the system, like for example, integrating more agent providers, allowing opt-in, opt-out, transparency, these kind of stuffs. Now let's get to the great part, the very nice part. That's the results. So these are our KPIs. Overall, we had four indicators. So the time that is being saved to the by the agents to draft a response, um, and which mostly results into how long is it going to take for a user to have a reply, which is super important when you talk about engaging with the a policy and with the citizens overall. The use of AI generated elements. So, how much of what the AI sent us was actually used by these agents? And again, we're coming back to the text similarity stuff, the rate, where you take the AI generated response, you take the actual response that was submitted, and you compare them and you try to see how much of that was actually kept by the agent. Um, the user feedback. So we also have a small feedback form, whether it was useful or not, on the response in the front end to the user. And the public servants, so the agent's feedback. So you remember when I told you there is this, you have the button, the green button, and then underneath you have a button, you have a small yes or no. Was it helpful? Yes or no. Boolean field. That's what it is, and just collecting the feedback from the agent. So two feedbacks from the end user who is receiving the response and the one who is actually drafting the response using the tool essentially. So these are the results that we got, and they're quite impressive. I was personally super surprised when I saw this first indicator. So we managed getting the average response time down from 19 days to 3 days. So this had a great. This was really very welcome to by the ministries that were actually at the uh, foundation of this initiative. They were really thrilled, and overall, every agency actually found that it was really saving a lot of time. And another really great and very encouraging result was the that 70% of the response that was generated by the AI system was actually used by the agents, which is quite a lot. In terms of user feedback, we have 68% of users that find the final answer useful, as opposed to 57% without AI, which means that we've got an improvement on quality, which is also a great indicator that the feature is actually useful. And finally, from this little was it helpful, yes or no survey, we got 76% of all the agents that had been using this feature to draft a response found it really helpful and really useful. So these are really the indicators you'd like to go with if you'd like to implement such a feature. This is some of the feedback that we received from agents. So the overall the functionality was very well received from the agents that were in charge of customer service. There was some reluctance, and you can imagine this is probably going to happen if you try to implement such a feature with your organizations. That the tool would be replacing the human being and the agent in the end. But when we showed the agents that actually this feature wouldn't replace them, and that we would always need their expertise, and that they would always be at the center of the system, this feedback system, then they started being a bit less sensitive on this issue. And we received a great feedback on the time that it saves, and allows the agents to focus on other types of tasks and other needs for their agencies. And the answers to the questions were actually really on point. I mean, when I was testing this myself while developing the feature back at the end of last year, I was really amazed. It was really bluffing. For some agencies, I really couldn't identify whether this was written by a human being or a machine. And so it was really, with some complex questions, it was really on point. Next, what do we have next on our roadmap? So we're going to be integrating more AI features, and this is planned for the end of November. We're collecting a lot of data, as you can see. So we'd like to generate now summaries and reports of all these different experience feedbacks that we have, and filter them by a given time period for a specific bureau, for a specific agency. We should be also able to derive the top 10 best or worst experiences on certain topics, so that we're really able to highlight in a snap, just highlight what is going wrong with certain tools or strategies for different agencies, or what they are doing great on the opposite side. And they are, currently under development, and we should be able to start getting them tested by the end of November. So same thing, we're going to follow exactly the same process: transparency, opt-in, opt-out, so flexibility, start with a very small group of testers and refine the feature, refine the LLM system, and scale it up and see how it goes. And I think that's it. We've reached the end of this presentation. So these are just like standard slides. And yeah.
Yeah. You want to do some Q&A?
So yeah, sure. So I'll be. I don't know yet what I'll be doing on the Contrib Day. There's Starshot. There are plenty of stuff going on, but why not look at the AI agent and try to see how we may be able to fit all this in and collaborate with them. But yeah, you're definitely welcome to join and ask questions. And if you need help with any code, anything with that, I'd be very happy to help. Thank you. Just some special thanks. I wanted to thank Laurent Blanc, who was really the head, the innovator behind all this, and has been pushing all this to the ministers in France. And he's part of the Directorate for Public Transformation. Thank the company, my company, to allow me to share on this about this content and on the project. And if you're interested, you're more than welcome to go and take a look at these sites, which will have more content and more information about these different features. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Does anyone have any questions?
Is it okay if I ask more than one question? Okay.
Sure.
I was wondering, because it was maybe you said it, but I couldn't really I didn't hear it. Is the end user, so not the agent, not the people that write the response,
Right,
so the end user,
Yeah.
are they able to choose if AI is allowed to be used or not?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Because you mentioned this transparency thing,
Right.
and it's more about the agent than that
Right.
can choose.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
More about the agent. So the end user will see whether it was used or not and how much of it was used.
Yes. Yes.
But they're not able to choose whether they want somebody
But
to.
so then the end user doesn't know that their data is going to be used with AI.
They don't know. There is a page specifically about this.
Privacy,
right,
private. Yeah.
right,
Okay.
right, right. A statement
Fair enough.
on the
Fair
site.
enough.
Yeah.
The screens you showed at the end, the one where it has all of the responses and no, but like like in the browser, you showed
Oh, yeah,
you showed
sure.
you
Yeah,
showed
yeah.
a screen where it had like responses and
Yeah.
users and is this an internal screen or is that like a public screen? Yeah,
Oh,
this one
that's
exactly.
that's totally public.
This
Yeah.
is public.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You can download all of this. You can, yeah, yeah. So you can go to data, and here you have the experiences. Here you have the list of structures, all of the agencies. So there's like something like 30,000 or something like that records. Then you have the typology. So the vocabulary that's used for these different services, the indicators, quality indicators, the results as well. You can download, export everything, use API also to plug your API onto it.
But does it get anonymized?
Anonymized, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Anonymized.
yeah.
That's
Exactly.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. It gets anonymized, yeah, definitely.
With AI or
It's part of the platform itself. So the platform itself will have so a few batch processes and different filters in place to filter out all this data. Yeah.
please stop me if someone else wants to.
Nope.
Does the AI when it makes the response does it
Yeah.
have information about the website, or is it more like fluff, like
Yeah.
drafting a response and then that's
It
general?
does. It does have information about the website. It does have lots of information, like we send it the feeling, we send it the different structures. I mean, the agencies with which it's related. We send quite a lot of stuff to it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you feed it into the.
It's quite simple. It's like a JSON object that we send it, which is not really big because you're talking about text, so it's quite small, and we send it to an endpoint. We wait, so we get a sort of a ticket number, an identification for this request. It processes it. Sometimes it can take longer, sometimes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on the amount of requests. And then on the next run or so, we have another queue that will ask for the response and get all the data back. So it was a bit tricky, I'd say, for the asynchronous processes, but yeah, you have to consider that in certain cases, you're not going to be able to get an immediate response. So you have to consider breaking your process into multiple steps, and yeah. Yeah, please.
Okay, hi. Thank you for your session. It's really cool that you share these kind of things with everybody. I think everybody should do it more. And really good stuff in there. I'm working with Jamie on the AI module. And I think you should certainly also come by our BOF. We're doing a BOF.
Nice.
So if you're interested in like having these AIs in a provider or working on the async thing, yeah, I'm really glad to have you on the team. So really looking forward to that. Thanks again. I think what you showed was really valuable.
Thanks.
So.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was two questions. The first one was probably a short one, but yeah, as we said, as Frederick said, I've been working on the AI module. Did you explore it at all and have any thoughts on it? And then the second one was, how do you tend to, particularly if you're doing things for government, how do you tend to answer the question to do with the potential environmental impact of LLMs? Like, have you thought about that? Have you got ideas? I'm particularly interested because everything I've read online says France is in a good place because of the nuclear power aspect of it. So the carbon is lower than the US models.
Right.
So anyway, I was wondering what your
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks. I have to look into it. Yeah, really. I've been working on several projects involving eco-scoring. So calculating the ecological costs of producing various things. We have an internal application which allows estimating or sort of calculating the ecological score of your website, but I haven't looked really into details of to the LLM systems themselves. I've been more, let's say, focusing on overseeing this feature and the overall development of the feature, and more on the website part and the user base, less on the engine itself. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, definitely. France has made has had ups and downs with nuclear power history, And now it's starting back again. And finally, after 12 years, they managed finishing this EPR in close to Toulouse over there, and took quite a long time. But
And did you evaluate the AI module? Or was it too early?
the AI module, yeah, I took a look at it, and it looks really good, and it's very promising. The thing is, when we started implementing this, it wasn't around yet, and so yeah, that's what I mentioned, and so we just went for a custom feature, which actually isn't that big and that complicated to implement. But we're definitely going to look into how we may be able to integrate the AI module with the site, and see how we could collaborate, and bring all this feedback back to the community. Yeah, definitely.
I have a very selfish and French question, which is those language vocabularies models you were showing us earlier. Is there one for mairie by any chance?
For mairie is town halls.
Town halls,
for,
yeah. Like, well, towns, like municipal offices. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say we could probably go with the one with Albert. I'd say, which is that's the default one owned by the agency in France is called DINUM. It's the agency for digital software and processing from the French government. So they are the ones responsible and developing it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, please.
It's more political, to do with, like, so you've got a startup. What do you think makes France so good at doing tech startups in Europe? Like, what did you find? I don't know how much you were there near the beginning of what you were doing, but what did you find was uniquely French that really helped you get going and do this kind of stuff?
So the fact that you have all these constraints around sovereignty, autonomy, and all these transparency and all these different aspects, they exclude a lot of very big competitors. Like, for example, the government is not going to be able to work with, I don't know, like big US companies like Google, Microsoft, etc. So this leaves a bit more possibilities for smaller local agencies, and has seen the emergence of different smaller companies which specialize on very specific industry-specific models. And so this one is a small company. I think they are based in Paris, and they're called AlloBrain, and they specialize in writing reviews for various government agencies, and they had a lot of similarities with what we were trying to do with responding to reviews and feedback from the users. So. But hopefully this is going to be the case also in many European countries. I've seen startups being developed in Germany, Italy, and all around, and Northern Europe in general. So I think it's going to be a field where more and more opportunities are going to come out from this. However, I have to say it's not easy working with public institutions. You have a lot of processes, consultations, and you need to be very transparent about a lot of things and go through a very complicated vetting process. And I suppose it has its hurdles, but it's probably going to be worth it in the end. And financially speaking, I mean.
Just briefly, I think one of the things that France does quite well, sorry to cut across you, is that they do like zoning. So they do like planning things. So they'll be like, right, this city needs development. We're going to make it really favorable for somebody in aerospace to set up a business here, which is what they did at Toulouse. There's a big technology park in Nice, which has been, so they actually do quite a lot of work as well to group industries together to try and like grow that incubation. So
Thanks, Greg.
Hi. So I work with the Canadian government, and this was really interesting. We've actually been doing some AI work on analyzing user feedback, not yet providing
Great.
responses to it. And really interesting to see work being done in French, because of course we do our work in English and in French. And one of the challenges that we often have is that the services that are available and so on in French are often less than what we can find in English. And in terms of being able to provide an equivalent experience in French as we do in English, which is a requirement, that often gives us challenges in terms of which, let's say LLMs we choose to work with and that sort of thing. And so I'm curious, I know you're working probably only in French, but I'm curious about your thoughts around being able to make sure that you're providing an equivalent experience in both languages when you're selecting sort of LLMs and making other choices around how to implement.
That's a very good question. Yeah. Right now the site, with this particular site is really focused around the French language and French community. But yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, we might be able to exchange contacts and see how we may be able to feed you some data to try to improve your French engines if you don't have enough data, and try to catch back with the amount of data that you have on the English side. That could work. Plus the engines, I think, the French government engines as well. Definitely, I can put you in contact as well with the rest of the team from the government and see if there's anything we could do for that. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
You do the responses not the responses, the AI part asynchronous,
Right.
like through cron jobs.
Yeah.
Why not just do it when the agent is pressing the button? Is it because you need to feed in the website and it's heavy, or?
Right. We have to. So the citizen sends us some feedback, which is received by the agent and who is able to reply to it. And so it takes a little bit of time for the engine to generate the response. So if we were doing it synchronously, then you'd be essentially clicking on the button and initiating the operation and just waiting.
Okay, so it's just to save the 30 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not 30 seconds. It's longer.
Oh, it's longer.
Yeah, it's longer.
Okay, fair
to generate it. Yeah, with our engine. Yeah, sometimes it can take, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, something like this.
But then every single end user, what is called question, is actually being fed into AI.
Yeah, that's right.
So okay, so that's the downside.
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
I actually have one more question myself.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Which is,
Go ahead.
you obviously gathered statistics around what percentage of the response that was generated by the AI was used.
Yeah.
Do you have any statistics about how many people who, on the civil service side, like refused to push the AI button, like didn't engage with the feature at all? I don't know if you're gathering that at all, or
We probably have it somewhere. Yeah. I could.
it would be interesting.
I could fish this out for you. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. The KPIs. What did we have?
I think in the KPIs
Yeah.
it was specifically
Right.
like of the people that use the feature,
Right.
how much of the response did they keep, if you like, rather than whether they used the feature or not. Yeah.
So it's sort of like the opposite of this a bit. So I'll try to look it up.
Just curious.
I'll
Yeah.
say-
Okay. Well, thanks very much, David.
Thanks. Yeah. Great. Thanks. Thanks everyone.